started playing poker seriously about 6 years ago, in 2001 or so. I was playing blackjack somewhat seriously and just in the casino environment, and realized that poker was a game of skill as well, where you could gain an advantage, and just got interested, started reading some books, and but before that I played poker with my family, like penny poker as a kid, I guess. And I remember in sophomore year of high school, a good friend of mine and I sat next to each other in chemistry class, and we had those big desks that had holes in them, you could do things that the teacher couldn't see. So we used to play poker illicitly in class for a quarter handy poker, and so we win or lose $5 or $10 every day, and so it was kind of fun. But it wasn't really till about 6 years ago I really started playing seriously. Did that for a few months. I was playing limit hold'em in the Bay Area, just a couple times a week, something, or once a week, and I'd play 6-12 and 9-18 limit hold'em, and one day I ran really good at 9-18. I won a couple thousand maybe, and I decided to step into a bigger game. One of the bigger games at that point, 20-40 limit hold'em, and I got crushed in that game and lost. At that point, it was really a lot of money, 4,000 or 5,000, And I was there until the wee hours of the morning, 10 a.m. I left maybe, and I was so demoralized and felt like an idiot. And then I came back the next couple of days, trying my hand at it again, and I eventually was playing the 40-80 limit hold'em game there, and I got crushed that week and lost probably about $10,000, and realized that there's probably something more I was missing to the game. And so I just went out and I bought a bunch of books, and I just started thinking about the game more seriously, rather than just approaching it as kind of very casually. I started studying it rigorously, and for about a week I did that without playing, and then I decided, I'm just going to go back and start playing and winning my money back. And at that point I was a graduate student, and was kind of looking for things to distract me, because I was kind of tired of being a graduate student and not really enjoying what I was doing. And so this provided the perfect distraction, because it's an open-ended field of study of, it's a fun play, and it's also intellectually challenging if you want it to be. And so so I started playing limit hold'em regularly several days a week, and slowly winning, and after a month or so I had won back my losses from that horrible week, and just kept winning and playing limit hold'em for months. And over the next year I took a year off of graduate school, and then started learning no limit hold'em and tournaments, and met some good people who I was able to learn from, and so it was really the scorching experience of losing pretty much all the money I had, playing like a donkey in higher stakes than I should have played. That's what compelled me to actually learn how to play poker seriously, because before that I was kind of I'm just having fun, sometimes win, sometimes lose, and that's really what kind of kicked my ass into right here. I think it's pretty easy for me to learn to play limit hold'em well and to be a winning player that game, but it took me much longer to become a winning player in no limit hold'em, and particularly because I was learning 5-6 years ago when the games were tougher. Well, not they're tough now, but wasn't played so much. So the regular game that I was playing, it was people have been playing for decades, and it was actually a fairly tough game to learn in. But implied odds, for example, understanding that, simple concept, people are playing nowadays, I guess, but that you shouldn't overplay a pair in no limit hold'em, because you're just giving your opponents the implied odds to make big hands and stack you. And so just keeping pot control, keeping the pots small when you have smaller hands, and playing bigger pots when you can make a bigger hand. Things like that make a lot of sense, that when you first started playing you might not immediately realize. Sometimes I'll play my hand like this, I'll raise 4 flop with 2 aces, and I'll get a caller or maybe 2 callers, and the flop will come just some random, king 8 deuce. I might just jack call on the flop, and so because if you bet out there, you're kind of telling them what you have. You bet out, you're saying, well, I got a big pair, or I got ace king, or sometimes they might think, well, you're just continuation betting, and they might raise you on a bluff, but you're more likely to get value out of the hand if you play it smaller, because you check on the flop, they might be convinced that their pocket nines is good, and they might be willing to call bet on the turn or river, or they might bet it for you. Yeah, so generally playing small pot poker with not very big hands, like one pair type hands, goes well with disguising your hand and as well as inducing bluffs. So the three concepts are kind of related. Overall, I take a holistic approach to poker, and I try to have a healthy lifestyle that is conducive to playing long hours, of poker. So I'll try to get a good night's sleep and eat well, and every morning before tournament I'll either be at the gym or at the pool swimming laps, and that kind of clears your mind, and for me, it gives me the stamina and the energy to stay focused and not get cranky at the end of the night, which I know definitely happens to me. Like if I don't work out on a given day, I'll be prone to tilt for sure. Last time I was on tilt was in April, playing in a big cash game, and I managed to dunk off my stack before the flop with ace king. And that was the worst. That was probably the worst play I've ever made. Yeah. But yeah, it's generally a good idea to take a little bit of time and recover and bust out from a tournament, because it's often emotionally traumatic, especially if you invested a couple days, playing and you're gone fairly deep. In cash games, you always have a very deep stack, and there's an argument, sort of ongoing argument between cash game players and tournament players, which one requires more skill, more sets of skills. And I think it's generally true that if you take a very good tournament player and you transplant them to a cash game, they're usually going to get murdered. Whereas if you take a top cash game player and put them in a tournament, they can hold their own. So you might say that there's more skill involved in cash games, but there's a lot more subtle skills in playing short stacks and tournament situations that don't arise in cash games, which can make them trickier, I think. So, they're different beasts altogether. Sometimes you can just squarely put opponents on exact hands, and that always feels good. Like this tournament past 2 days, I had a pretty good record. I kept calling out people's hands at the table and get them right just about every time. But sometimes, you just get in a zone. I think it's like that with every profession. You get in a zone, you don't know how exactly what happens. You just can really focus. You know what people have, and other times just kind of playing and just playing ABC poker and not really paying too much attention. Your mind's wandering, and so that's why I like having coming in fresh every day to a tournament and being very healthy and is the most important thing for me. So I can actually pick up on these small things and pay attention to every little detail to put these things together when it's important when I'm in the pot. So, you could say I want to win World Series main event, or I want to win World Poker Tour Championship, or all these things. I'd like to win a major tournament. I haven't won a major tournament. Step one, I'd like to make another major final table, which I haven't done. So that's I would say that's my goals. I just like to continue winning at poker and have fun. And I think in the next year, my goal is to do a better job of balancing my schedule into playing more cash games, which can make more steady income, whereas tournaments you can just run that for months or a year on end and not score anything big. So start playing more cash games and maybe play a little bit less tournament, but still play most of the ones. But I think I'll skip some of the ones with not very good structures or that are not in places I really want to go to. So that's pretty much my goal for the next year or so.